What's going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up and configure the Aimtrak Light Guns to use with the Arcade 1 systems, and I'm also going to show you how to operate the guns. Now, before we get started, make sure you upgrade the firmware to the latest version. I have a video in the description showing you how to do that, and also there's a link in the description to my older video that it's a little bit more visual than this one because you can actually see me doing all these things in the video. Just keep in mind that that video was made using the old gun system, and now I've made a bunch of changes that have changed a bunch of the functionality of the guns. So make sure that you keep that in mind as you watch the other video. You're going to want to use certain things from that video, but not everything. So the calibration of the guns, all that is okay, but the button assignments and things like that are different now, and the way you operate the guns is a little bit different now. So just keep that in mind. So with that said, the first thing you want to do is I always recommend that you label your guns. So if you put a piece of tape on there, whatever you want to do, just label one of them number 1 and label the second gun number 2. Then go ahead and plug in the gun that you labeled number 2. Go ahead and plug that into the computer, and you're going to see the on the bottom right here, you're going to see a prompt that says it's installing the drivers. Let that finish. Once that finishes, I'm not going to do that because I already have them installed, but once that finishes, you open up the Aimtrak utility. There's a shortcut on the desktop. And once you open up the Aimtrak utility, you're going to see that on the bottom, it shows you a green box here that says what firmware you have. If this is green here, that means it sees your gun, it's reading the gun, and everything's fine. All right, so at that point, you're going to be able to move your mouse cursor with the gun if you point it at the screen. Now, obviously, don't forget to plug in your sensor bar and place that on top or bottom of your monitor. But you know, if your sensor bar is plugged in, this is green, everything's good. If you point the gun at the screen, which I'm doing now, you should be able to move your mouse cursor around because the gun is basically just like a mouse. Okay, and another way you can check that everything's okay is if you go to the sensor view up here and you point the gun at the screen, you're going to see a red dot appears. Now, the dot is going to move in the opposite direction that you move the gun in. That is okay. You're not looking for accuracy or anything there. All you want to see is that dot. If that dot appears, it's telling you that the gun is being seen by the sensor bar and everything is okay so far. Now, remember we plugged in gun number 2. But right now, if you look here, we're on device number 1, and we want to change that. We want to make that device number 2. So we're going to go to the Setup tab, and you're going to highlight Set ID to 2, and you're going to click OK. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to look like it freezes. It actually is going to freeze. It's going to say not responding. You see now the device says no device. And if you try to move, click on the program like that, see it says no responding now. So that's fine. You want to close it out, close program, and you want to reopen it. Now it says no device and it's red for device number 1. But if you click on the drop down menu and you select device number 2, now you have the green with the firmware version, and if you move the gun around, it's going to move the cursor on the screen like it's doing right there. And again, if you go to sensor view check, you're going to see a red dot in there. So all we did so far is we changed the gun ID from 1 to 2. That's why now it appears on device number 2. Next up, you're going to want to change the button assignments. Now, the ones on the screen here that you see are correct because I already set mine to those. Yours are not going to be like this, so go ahead and from the drop-down menu, select everything you see on the screen. You want to make this one GP button 1, this one 2, 3, 3, mouse left, mouse right, and make sure that this box right here is checked off like this. And when you do apply settings down here, it's going to apply those changes to the gun, and you're going to be good to go. So now we're at device number 2, and all these assignments here match what you see on the screen. All right, so that's awesome. Now next up, you want to calibrate the gun. Now to calibrate the gun, you have 2 options. You can either click calibrate here on this button here, or if you look at this checkbox right here, that's what the point of this checkbox is. See, this is on-screen assignments and this is off-screen assignments. So right there, you're saying enable calibration for this button right here, the right red button on the gun, on screen. So if you point the gun at the screen and you hold the right red button for like 2-3 seconds, you're going to see that the mouse cursor moves over to the upper left corner of the screen. So what you want to do is you point your gun there and you shoot. Then it moves to the upper right corner, you point your gun there and you shoot. And then it moves to the bottom, so you point your gun there and you shoot. The bottom one's a little tricky. Sometimes it takes a few tries to get it. Aim a little bit higher or a little bit lower if you can't get it to register. And there we go. You saw that it took me a few tries to get that one. A few tips for you guys there. And again, I go over this in my older videos, so take a look at that one too. Is always shoot from the position that you're going to be using the gun. So if you're going to be shooting from your hip, calibrate it from your hip. If you're going to be shooting out with your arms in front of you, calibrate it with your arms in front of you. And also calibrate it from the distance that you're going to be playing from. You don't want to be too close. So you don't want to be like 2 feet away from the screen when you do this. You want to be a good maybe 4 feet back. Right now I'm actually a lot closer for the purposes of this tutorial. I'm maybe about 2.5 to 3 feet away, but it's better if you're a little bit further away. So right now we have the gun that's labeled number 2. We have it on device number 2, and we have these button assignments set up correctly, and we just calibrated the gun. Now you want to unplug gun number 2 and you want to plug in gun number 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the program because it stopped responding, and I'm going to reopen it. Now you can see that device number 1 is back to green because the gun comes default as device number 1, and we want to leave that one. We're not changing the first gun because the first gun is going to be device number 1. What you do want to do is you want to come over here and again change these buttons to what you see on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, 3, and then mouse left and mouse right, and make sure this one is checked off. None of these other ones should have a check mark on them. Once you do that, hit apply changes, and then you want to calibrate the gun same way we calibrated the other one. Again, you can either press this button here or you can point it at the screen and hold the button on the right for 2 to 3 seconds. This time I'm going to hit the button here, and you can see it's the same effect. So again, I'm going to shoot each cursor. I'm going to aim at it, shoot, and then we'll continue. There's the left, there's the right, and there's the bottom one that's tricky to get. So I'm gonna move back a little bit more. I'm a little bit too close right now. And there we go. I got that one. All right, guys. So right now, gun 1 and 2 are ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the second gun. I'm just gonna close the utility first, and I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the second gun. A quick tip for you guys, and I do mention this in my older video, is if you have the gun pointing at the screen and you're trying to move your mouse cursor, it could interfere because remember that the guns are really just mice. So it's basically like you have 2 mice plugged in and you're trying to move both of them at the same time. So when you're actually moving your real mouse and you're trying to select things, make sure that the guns are pointing completely away from the screen. They could even bounce off of walls and stuff like that if you have them pointing at a wall. So just make sure they're completely pointing away from the screen. That way you'll be able to control your mouse okay. All right, so right now I have both guns plugged in. I'm going to start the Aimtrak utility again. And you can see that I have device 1 is showing up good. And if I select device number 2, that one is also showing up good. And all these button assignments match on both guns. And if I go to the sensor view check, and now I point the gun label number 2 at the screen, you can see the red dots. And if I switch over to device number 1, I have to go back to configuration, device number 1, and then do the sensor view check, and I point that gun number 1, it also shows that red dot. So the guns are completely ready to go, all set up. We're done here with the Aimtrak utility. So I'm going to close it out. And I'm going to go ahead and open up Hyperspin from the shortcut right here on the taskbar. I'm going to skip the intro, and I'm going to go down to gun games. And let's start off with a MAME game, so Area 51. Now, if you look at the older video, you'll notice that I mentioned to insert credit and stuff like that, you need to do it from the keyboard or your X arcade joystick, extension joystick, etc. That is no longer the case. You can now insert credit and press player 1 start, player 2 start, and exit the game right from the gun. So that's what I'm going to be showing you now. So what you want to do is you want to point the gun away from the screen. When the gun is pointed away from the screen, if you press the right red button, that's going to insert credit. So if you look at the bottom, it's asking you to insert coin. I'm going to point the gun away from the screen, press the red button, and it just inserted half a credit. Did it again, and now you have 1 credit. Again, now I have 2 credits. Now if you point the gun at the screen, that same right red button is going to act as player 1 start. So you press that button now with the gun pointed at the screen, and it triggers that player 1 start. Then this game, you have to select one of these 2 options. So I'm going to choose this one and squeeze the trigger, and you're off and running. You can see it's working perfectly. And to reload, I point outside of the screen and I squeeze the trigger, and that reloads the bullets. Okay, so now to exit, you want to point the gun away from the screen, and you want to hold the right button for 2 to 3 seconds. And that's going to kick you back out to the game selection menu right here. So pretty simple. You just have to remember that if you point away from the screen, that right button inserts credit when you press it. If you point it at the screen, that right button acts as player start. And if you point it away from the screen and you hold down the right button for 2 to 3 seconds, that's going to be your exit. Now, of course, you can still do these things through the X arcade joystick, or the Rec Room Masters extension joystick, or your iPad, or with your Xbox controllers. But this makes it easier for you to select the game, step back, and you don't have to go over to your controller again to do any of these functions. You can do it right from your gun. So let's go ahead and take a look at another game here. We're going to look at Virtual Cop, which is a Sega Model 2 game. Now, with a Sega Model 2 game like Virtual Cop, the first time you start it, after you configure your guns, it might not start up properly. You'll see like a flash come up and it'll minimize itself. If that happens, just press escape, or exit on your controller, back start on the Xbox controller, or your exit key on your other controllers, and then start the game again. That's going to happen only the first time. So it's actually a good habit to, once you get your gun set up for the first time, just come over here to Virtual Cop, start that up right away. And if you get that problem where it looks like it pops up but then it goes away, just exit it out and then start it up again, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and start that one. And this is basically the same thing as before. You're going to point it away from the screen. I'm just going to wait for this warning to go away. So I'm going to point it away from the screen, and you can see there's already 7 credits, but if I squeeze the right button again, inserts 1 more, and then 1 more, then I'm going to point it at the screen, and I'm going to press the red button, and that's player 1 start. I'm just going to make my selection with the trigger. And I'm off and running. Alright, so I'm going to point it away from the screen, and I'm going to hold down the red button, and it's going to kick me out and take me back to the menu. Alright, and then I'm going to show you guys one more game here. It's going to be Hogan's Alley for MAME. And there's only 2 games that are like this. These are PlayChoice-10 games, and these are started a little bit different than the other games. So I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so for PlayChoice-10 games, they have to be started a little bit different. So for this one, you're going to point it away from the screen like the other games. You're going to insert your credit, but then you're going to get this green screen right here that says channel select. So for this one, you're going to point it at the screen and you're going to press both left and right buttons at the same time. That's going to be similar to pressing enter. So if you have an extension or an X arcade stick, you can also just go ahead and press the enter button on those, but you can do it from the gun right there. So once you press enter, you can go ahead and point it at the screen, or actually you point it away from the screen and press that red button again, and that's going to select, that's going to act as select. So you can select one of these three options here. And once you have the one you want, you point it at the screen again and press that red button. And then the game starts. So just to recap, you point it away from the screen, press the red button, just like every other system to insert credit. The only extra step here is you point it at the screen and press both buttons at the same time. That's going to act as an enter key. And then you point it away from the screen one more time to select one of the options. And then you point it at the screen and press the red button again. And that's going to start the game for you. All right, so right now I'm going to point it away from the screen, hold on the red button as usual to exit. And again, that's only going to be for this game here. And there's one more PlayChoice-10 game. I can't remember which one it is right now, but if you look at the top of the logo here, you can see it says PlayChoice-10. So there's another one around here somewhere that's also a PlayChoice-10 game, and you have to do that same process. But other than that, guys, as you can see, it's very simple to get these set up, as long as you get the configuration correct in that initial setup process with the Aimtrak utility. Once you have that correct, you have the gun assigned to gun number 1 and the second gun assigned to device number 2, and then you have those button assignments configured the way I showed you guys, the way you see it here on the screen, and you do your calibration. That's it. That's basically the gist of it. Once you go into once you go into the gun games and you start up a game, then it's just a matter of getting used to the on-screen, off-screen assignments that I showed you, and that's it. You'll be ready to go and playing gun games pretty quickly. This new setup is a lot more streamlined, is a lot more stable than the old way. So you guys should be good to go. If you have any issues, just let me know. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.